On the count of 3. 1, 2, 4, 7, 6, 12, 3.
Hello and welcome to Your Favorite Book. I'm Mallory.
I'm Tanner.
We're siblings.
And we are wearing fall colors. And we also like reading books.
But we don't like reading Dracula.
Newsflash, we didn't finish it.
This is our first DNF of the whole podcast.
Yeah, it's the first DNF of my life.
Me too, I think.
Yeah, I finished everything I've ever started.
I have a hard time not finishing it. It makes me feel frustrated. But I was even more frustrated reading Dracula.
Yeah. Did we finish our intro? We're siblings, we like reading books, and on today's episode, we're not reading Dracula. Yeah, I think we covered it.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who are following along with our Halloween Vampire Readathon, we regret to inform you that we got about halfway through Dracula. I got about halfway.
I think I got halfway.
And we just couldn't take it anymore.
I couldn't make myself finish it.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it. We were like...
This is so boring.
You sent me a text the day we were recording, and you were like, I don't think I'll have it done. And I was like, thank goodness me either.
I was like 6 hours in. I was listening to the audiobook, and it was so dry. It was like...
It was boring. It was long.
Yeah. It was like trying to eat a dirt sandwich.
It was mundane.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you have read Dracula and you liked it, please tell us your opinions in the comments. Because I really want to know. I want to know what people see in it.
Yeah. There
were a couple things that I thought were interesting. Mainly the description when Parker, the first guy, is in Dracula's castle.
Parker?
Isn't his last name Parker?
Jonathan?
Parker?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Okay, well, the first person, Jonathan, is watching Dracula and he climbs out of the castle upside down. That was interesting and creepy, and you get the creepy women vampires. All of the actual vampire stuff I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But it was so few and far between that I was like, I felt like I'd been gaslit into thinking this was about vampires.
Yeah. Especially after that first act. The story is basically, well, I don't want to say Salem's Lot is basically Dracula. It's about a vampire invading a town and turning people into vampires, and the townspeople have become aware of it eventually and have to kill it.
Yeah.
So after reading the first half of Dracula, and I'll be honest, I basically listened to only the first third, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just tuned out because after the main character, John, he's a real estate guy. He's helping Dracula buy a house in England. He's moving out of his castle. And Dracula moves into England, and we cut away from John's POV. And
right when it gets interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be about John killing Dracula in his castle. Or trying to escape.
Or maybe him getting turned into a vampire. Nope, we just stop right before it happens.
Yeah.
Who knows? We didn't finish the book. Maybe we get that later on. But I will never find out.
Maybe there are some cool, creepy, interesting scenes towards the end, but the middle of this book is such a slog.
I couldn't get through it.
I wasn't paying any attention. I didn't care about any of the characters.
I felt like I didn't even know half of them.
It was really sexist, but it's also been written in the 1800s.
Yes.
Oh
my gosh. All of
Salem's Lot.
All of the male POVs are like, business, business, business. Smart, intelligent, deducing, business, business, business. And the girls are literally like,
fainting,
I had 3 boys propose to me today, and I don't know which one to pick.
It was awesome. Also, 2 of the older male characters give one of the female characters, while she's unconscious, a sponge bath and change her into a dress before she goes back to sleep or something.
What?
Yeah, it's an old book, but there's no excuse for that.
I didn't know there would be werewolves involved.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that, but I was like, for what reason?
I didn't get to the werewolves part.
It was implied from the beginning.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't werewolves. Maybe they just liked dogs.
I don't know.
And I will say, did you get to the scene where the boat came in through the fog?
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting scene.
No, I don't think there are werewolves in it. I think because this is also true in Salem's Lot, right? Where Dracula can kind of control werewolf or can kind of control dogs and wolves.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even get that.
Yep. Well, I could have missed it. I don't think there's werewolves. I just think Dracula can control wolves.
I just assumed.
And then there's a wild dog on one of the ships that attacks all the people on board.
I thought it was a vampire that attacked all the people on board.
Yes, it was a vampire.
And there's also a dog.
Okay.
Well, I didn't finish the book, and I felt a lot of relief not finishing it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, me too. I could not sit through it. I couldn't give an honest review because I couldn't pay attention to it.
No.
It was just so boring.
I'm sure it has its merits if that's the kind of book that you like. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, please, if you like Dracula, please tell us why. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, tell me, give me one good reason.
Yeah.
No, I genuinely want to know what was good about it, because I couldn't see anything.
Yeah. I actually kind of enjoyed John getting stuck inside Dracula's castle.
Yeah, I thought that was good too.
I liked that it was all written in epistolary.
Mm-hmm.
The writing style itself was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the descriptions. I thought were very vivid.
There was also a lot of homoerotic subtext.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And, oh yeah, like between the female characters.
Yeah, and also when the female vampires are trying to kill John, and Dracula literally says, "Don't touch him, he's mine," and then lifts him and carries him to bed and puts him into pajamas.
Yeah. Well, vampires are all about sex.
Yep, we've learned that from our...
Yes, that's been revealed to me. I was like, what am I got myself into here? But even between the women, like in the second act, there's two main female love interests. Lucy and Annabeth or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember her name at all. I didn't even remember Lucy's name.
And the way they describe each other to each other is
you don't want to marry
romantic.
Your 3 boyfriend suitors. You just want to marry each other.
Yeah, they're definitely lesbians.
Yes.
Anyway, I didn't like it. Not because it's an older book, but I think it's regarded as like the grandfather of Gothic horror.
Yeah.
And that stuff I did enjoy for the first act. But after John leaves Dracula's castle, then it just becomes so boring, like this Victoria Pride and Prejudice story.
Which we discovered we didn't like when we read Terramare, His Majesty's Dragon.
Yeah,
Tembrare.
Yeah, but there wasn't even that much of it in that book. This was so boring. That's all that this book was.
I need more vampire.
It was subtle. It was like so slow.
I couldn't get to it.
Yeah, I couldn't do it either. So we gave up for our own sake.
Yeah.
I thought I could not experiencing anything more dull than Twilight. But then we read Dracula. It's like,
Twilight's looking pretty good now,
Twilight
isn't it?
just became my favorite book of the month.
That's so sad.
I know, so sad.
Not
for me. Poor me, I have to read books I don't like. But we cut it out and we said, let's review a different book that we both like.
Yep.
Called Percy Jackson.
We read Percy Jackson instead.
Yep, for Halloween. We could think of any other Halloween books.
Yeah, there aren't any. Percy Jackson is the only one after Dracula.
True. And this is the opposite of the scary book.
Yes.
This is a happy, fun book.
Yep. Middle grade, fantasy.
For people who don't know.
Greek retelling.
Geez, who doesn't know?
Yeah, who doesn't know Percy Jackson?
But this is one of your favorite books.
It is. I love Percy Jackson.
You are performing in a play.
I am. I'm doing the musical currently. I'm playing Annabeth in Percy Jackson.
Yeah, congratulations.
We start performances in the middle of next month.
So please show up, everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun and really great. And it's a good show. But because of that, I've been rereading the books. And I honestly usually reread one of the first 5 books once a year.
Yeah.
I really love them. I'll pick them up if I don't know what to read and I just want a nice comfort read. I read the first 3 books, I think, when I was about 10 years old, maybe 12. I think the first 3 or 4 were out at that time, and I ran through them, and then I anxiously awaited each release after that. I just always have loved these books. The characters are so endearing to me. I love Greek retellings. I love mythology retelling specifically. And they're just exactly that. And I love the world building that Rick Riordan has in place, and I love how he builds
What are
when you
saying
read a
here?
book series
Yeah.
that is multiple books Sometimes the author struggles with pacing for having singular plots for each book and a nice overarching plot. Yeah. But Rick Riordan in that first arc of Percy Jackson has that overarching plot so well done to me. Which is part of why it's so exciting and why I was so ready for the next book and waiting for those next releases. Yeah, I love them. He's even releasing a third arc currently that has to do with Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, which is the original trio, and about Percy trying to get into college and having to do favors for the gods to get college recommendation letters. And they're so much fun, and it's just making me feel so happy.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. What's the overarching problem for Percy?
For all 5?
Yeah.
It starts at book 1, but it starts mainly in the end of book 1, in which Kronos, the king of the Titans...
Oh, that's right. He's coming back to life.
Coming back to life and trying to overthrow the gods.
Yes, that's right. Spoiler alert for this book, obviously. I couldn't remember what it was, because,
it only kind of steps in at the very end, and you can see signs of it in the book if you've read the whole series and are rereading it.
Yeah, he's obviously planned that stuff. And it's going to be impossible not to compare this to Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But, in Harry Potter, it's, Voldemort killed Harry's parents, and it happens right at the beginning. So like, okay, this whole thing is going to be about Harry killing Voldemort. The Percy Jackson follows Harry Potter's footsteps. Yeah. Quite closely, I would say. And I started when I was a wee lad reading Harry Potter. And I loved those books. I just devoured them. And I think Harry Potter definitely came out before Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson came out in 2005. Harry Potter was like in the late 90s. I think 99.
I think so.
So I had my hands on Harry Potter first. And then when I read Percy Jackson, I really enjoyed it. And I think I read a couple of the sequels. But for some reason, I can't remember them very well. And I don't know why, because I also love Greek mythology. Yeah.
I will say the second book is the weakest of all 5.
Okay.
Which is hard, because...
It gets better over time.
Yeah. I still love it, but it's definitely the weakest.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that I didn't fall in love with it, and I suspect after rereading it for the first time in like maybe 50 years.
50?
Yes. It's because it was too similar to Harry Potter.
Yeah, it definitely checks a lot of the same boxes.
Yeah. Primarily, the biggest similarities are the main character. It's 12-year-old white boy, orphan, going on a magical quest.
He's not an orphan, but yeah.
Technically, he is. Yeah.
His mom. He's still completely in his mom's life.
I know. But she basically dies.
That's true. Oh, yeah. You're totally right.
Yeah. And yes, his mom is more important to him. And that's part of what I like about Percy Jackson so much. Is his motivation is rooted in just saving his mom, basically. Trying to find a way to bring her back to life.
He's the biggest mama's boy you'll ever find.
Yeah, but it's cute. And
it's so tender.
Yeah.
I love their relationship. It makes me very, very emotional.
Don't cry on this podcast.
I love this book so much.
If you cry, we're going to have to delete the episode.
Well, then the episode's going to be deleted. We might as well stop recording now.
Yeah. The other biggest similarities between this and Harry Potter were the character dynamics between the main two characters. Yeah. Which, as an adult rereading this book, I feel like is a bit of a disservice to the story. Because it could be so much better, I think. Just vary up your cast a little bit. Change the dynamics between them, because it is very similar to Harry Potter. Like, Grover's basically Ron. He's a klutz. He's the comic relief. Yeah. He's the main character's best friend, who's the chosen one. Yeah. Annabeth, she's the smart one. Yeah. She's analytical and overthinks everything, comes up with all the brilliant plans, and she has a platonic friendship with the main character. He kind of varies on that a little bit. I think he turns them into more of a love interest by the end of the book, or at least hints towards it, but it's middle grade, so it's like not there at all. Yeah. So, and those 3 characters start off as not so great friends at the beginning of the book, and then by the end they become really strong friends, except not for Grover and Percy. Sorry. I mean between Annabeth and Percy. Yeah. Anyway, all that stuff, I think maybe I picked up on it subconsciously as a kid, and it wasn't different enough that it caught my attention.
Yeah.
Even though I loved the world building,
Yeah.
and I thought the story was good, and reading it as an adult, I think the story is still good. And super enjoyable to read as a middle grade kid.
Yeah.
Or even as an adult.
Yeah.
But I think it suffers from being too similar.
I can see that. I totally see what you're saying, but I highly prefer the dynamics between Percy, Annabeth, and Grover than Harry, Ron, and Hermione.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
I think it feels more like actual kids, and they're pretty young in the books. They're like 12 years old each, except for Grover, who's 28, but he's a half goat satyr, so...
He ages twice as fast.
Yeah.
Twice as slow.
Yeah. And I think I just enjoyed Annabeth's character more specifically because Hermione is portrayed in Harry Potter as just the know-it-all. And Annabeth is portrayed as that, but she's also portrayed as strong. It's not just her being like, well, I know it, and I'm smarter than you, so... Like, that's all that Hermione feels like to me. And
right.
I think that Rick Riordan explores the dynamics between how those three feel about each other more than Rowling does. In Harry Potter, it feels like, oh, they're just together because the author said they were together. Versus there's a lot more choice involved in between why Grover, Percy, and Annabeth stick together and want to stay together. But, I don't know.
Okay. I might respectfully disagree with you there.
Yeah?
I would say they're both very similar
They
to
are,
each other.
yeah.
I think with Harry Potter in the first book, Harry and Ron, they are sitting across from each other on the train. And Ron wants everything that Harry's ever had. And Harry wants everything Ron has ever had, which is a family. And we're not going to turn this into a review of Harry Potter. I'm just trying to compare the two, like how these relationships form, because that is a really core part of these stories are the characters, obviously.
Yeah.
I win the award for most obvious today. In Harry Potter, those two do relate to each other because they see, like, you're the chosen one and you have all this money. I'm poor and I have a family, and, that's what Harry wants, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they become friends. And in middle grade books, well, I guess in life, kids become friends for the stupidest reasons when you're that young. Like, my best friend lived around the corner from me. Like, and then we were just friends.
Yep.
Right? It's like, you want to play basketball? Sure. We're best friends now. It's not until you grow up that you realize, like, oh, we're completely different people.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter to analyze the difference between the two. But in Percy Jackson, Grover and Percy are friends because Grover is assigned to protect Percy, who is a demigod. Percy doesn't know that he is a demigod. And there are strange things that happen around him with Grover that he doesn't understand. He just thinks Grover's a little weird.
Yep.
But he's just friends with him because, I don't know.
It's
Percy
his job.
gets picked on.
It's his job. It's his obligation, initially.
Yes. So, I don't know. I feel like there's maybe a little bit more of an emotional connection between Ron and Harry, or an understanding for the basis of their relationship or their friendship.
I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
But I just don't like Harry Potter that much. So
That's
it's
fine.
just a bias there.
I understand. But I don't know. Maybe there wasn't... And I liked the relationship between Percy and Grover fine. Maybe I liked the dynamic between them fine. Just because Grover's funny. Like, I love a comic relief in a book. I don't know. I didn't really feel like they were great friends. Like, you could have left Grover out from the beginning. Like, after he delivers Percy to Camp Half-Blood, and then you could have, like, punished Grover and sent him away forever, and I'd be like, oh, okay. I mean, it would have felt like the comic relief is missing, but I wouldn't have felt like, oh my god, Grover's gone!
Even they recently have been doing a new TV adaptation of the show, and they've changed Grover's role so that he has more of a role later on in the series, and I think maybe that is a very valid criticism that even the creators of the series were like, maybe let's add some more stuff for Grover to do to contribute to the team and to the relationship between him and Annabeth and him and Percy. So, yeah, totally fair.
There is a moment halfway through this book when Grover and Percy have a bit of an argument about, like, how humans are polluting everything, and Grover tells Percy, like, my purpose of guarding you is because I want to become worthy of finding Pan. And Pan is the god of...
the wild.
Sure. I don't really... I'm not...
Yes.
Familiar. Okay.
Yes.
Grover's the... Pan is the god of the wild, and he's Grover's god. So Grover wants to find Pan because he's disappeared, and humans are destroying the planet. And he and Percy have an argument about that. And I liked having that moment when those two could actually fight about something.
Yeah.
That also felt very Harry Potter-esque. In Harry Potter, the characters, Hermione, Harry, and Ron fight all the time. It's part of what makes that story interesting.
Yeah,
like,
well, if you were stuck with two other people in that high stakes, you would butt heads too, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think it makes it for a better story. Otherwise, there's no real progress to be made.
Yeah.
Like, you want your relationship to go from one place to another, right? Like, enemies to lovers is the classic trope.
Yeah.
And you can introduce believable conflicts like that. I don't really remember why Grover brings up the whole, like, humans are polluting the planet and we're getting in a fight now, Percy. But here's my goal, is to bring back Pan. Like, I don't know what arc they were working towards with that relationship in this book.
Yeah. It also definitely suffers from him setting stuff up for book 3 and 4, or him setting stuff up for book 2 even, that doesn't get paid off until later on, you know?
Oh, okay. Like Grover finding Pan?
Yes.
Well, I liked Grover at least having a mission outside of, like, I'm just friends with you, Percy.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
But it also kind of weakens their relationship a little bit, where it's like, the only reason why I'm here to help you, Percy, is because...
I want my searcher's license, not because I love you and care about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that.
But I also do like that Grover has a bit of a character arc in this book. Like, we find out halfway through that Grover failed to deliver a half-blood to Camp Half-Blood. A demigod to Camp Half-Blood. And he's seeking redemption. And that's what Percy represents to him. So maybe it even weakens their relationship further. It becomes even more transactional.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm reading too much into this, obviously.
Yeah. I like it.
You like that about it?
I do.
Okay.
I like that.
But they don't have a fight about that specifically. Like, there isn't a moment where Percy's like, oh, so you don't care about me, you're just taking advantage of me?
Yeah.
And then maybe there could have been a moment where they have a fight about that, and Grover would be like, no, I do. We are friends, but I need a chance to prove it to you. And then at the end of the story, Grover has the choice to, like, become a seeker and to find Pan, or to obtain redemption, but in maybe a cynical way where he doesn't have to try so hard. Like, he has to give up the thing that he wants, which is approval from Demeter? Who's his god that's in charge of him?
Dionysus is in charge of the Council of the Cloven Elders.
Okay, I'm so glad you're here because you were such a huge fan of this book series that you know the name of everything.
I do.
Okay, so Dionysus is, since Pan is not present, I'm assuming, Dionysus is like, okay, I'll be the god of the satyrs.
Yes.
And he is the person who can let Grover go on his mission to find Pan. And he needs to, do something heroic. So he goes on this quest with Percy in order to do that. Anyway, there could be a moment when Grover, in this book, has a chance to get what he wants from Dionysus, which is his approval to finally go find Pan. And then he rejects that in exchange for saving Percy or helping him rescue his mom. Something like that.
Yeah, and they do brush on it, but like the moment when Percy has to choose who gets to leave the underworld, because he has 3 pearls and 4 people, and Annabeth and Grover each have a moment of leave me here. So I think they kind of take a glimpse at that opportunity, but they don't ever he doesn't solidly decide,
Yeah.
So it would be nice if you had that moment to resolve that tension and for Grover to be able to make a conscious choice, an active choice towards getting his goal or protecting Percy. Right. To proving to Percy that they are really friends, and Grover showing us who he really is too. It's a good opportunity for us to show us who Grover is, because he could have accepted this quest to help Percy, and you could have started their relationship off on the wrong foot. Yep.
where Grover's like, ugh, I just have to help this snot-nosed kid or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not really here to protect him. I'm here for me.
Yeah.
And then over time, they go through these crazy, wacky adventures. Mm-hmm. They grow to like each other more on a more personal level.
Yeah.
And then at the end, Grover, he, rejects what he wants. Yeah. And then he chooses to help Percy instead. Even though it means him never becoming a seeker and finding Pan. Mm-hmm. And it means so much to him. Yeah. That would have been great. Mm-hmm. I realize that he's just a secondary character in a middle grade book, so you're not going to flesh out every single character to the same degree. Mm-hmm. But that's something I would appreciate as a reader.
I can see that.
And I don't think it makes your book any bigger. Mm-mm. I don't think it expands your scope. It just pushes it a little farther in these certain directions where, like you said, at the end it kind of scrapes at that, resolving that conflict. It doesn't even establish that conflict very strongly in the first place.
Yeah, well, like, even if they didn't have him choose between that, you could have them return to Camp Half-Blood and Grover have a moment at Thalia's tree to be like, wow, I did it. And everybody's alive, and that's because of me. Like, you could still have a way to have him have an emotional arc there.
Yeah, well, that would have been great if he felt like receiving, if Grover felt like receiving Dionysus. What's his name? Okay, I'm so bad with the names. Good. I know that I said that I like Greek mythology. I do.
That doesn't make it easy to pronounce.
I know, or to remember. And it would have been nice if you had Grover at the end of the book standing at Talia's grave because she is the person who he failed to bring to Camp Half-Blood. And the consequences that she died, just like, how do you live with that? Feeling like you're responsible for someone's death. Yeah. And he, even though Dionysus didn't give him the approval that he wanted, which would have resented that forgiveness, exactly. Yeah. Either Percy could have said, you did the right thing by me, thank you, and that could have been his version, Grover's version of redemption. Yeah. Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, and it would have added, a page? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's not too much of a big difference between the two, but it could really set it.
Yeah. It would have been, There should have been a scene at the end of this book when the three of them are at Talia's grave. Yeah.
It also, What? It would help foreshadow events that happen in the end of book 2 as well.
Right. So I think that just this discussion about Grover in particular kind of highlights my main, not issue with the book, but I feel like it has so much potential that you could have pushed some of these things farther. Yeah. It feels like in almost every aspect of this story, except for the world building, it kind of goes halfway. Like, Grover, he does have his own character. He has a bit of an arc, but it's not exaggerated. Should have started Percy off on the wrong foot with that relationship, and then by the end they become friends. Yeah. Instead, they're just kind of really good friends throughout the whole book. Same thing goes with Annabeth. She also has a similar problem with Grover, where there aren't enough opportunities in this book for her to do something very Athena-esque. She does occasionally. But there's one scene in particular where the characters, it's basically one big travelogue. Yeah. It's kind of like Odysseus, but for little kids. Yeah. Which is so much fun. And, painting everything in a modern version of Greek myths is perfect. Like, even when you're a 10-year-old, you can read this book and be like, oh, I know what a mattress salesman is like. But the mattress salesman is this Greek character from Odysseus. Yeah. And that character's name in this book is Krusty, and I can't remember who the Greek character is.
I think it's Acrostoles. Okay. I think it's something like that.
That sounds about right. You're sure it's not Krusty from Odysseus?
Nope.
Homer didn't name him Krusty?
No, he should have.
But this mattress salesman traps people in his mattresses. And both Annabeth and Grover get trapped, and Percy has to come up with like a clever solution to solve his riddle. And he tricks Krusty to sit in his own mattress, and then he gets swallowed up. And I'm like, that's a really fun scene, but this is like the perfect Annabeth moment, right? Like, why not make her the more wise one, the clever one that solves that puzzle?
Yeah, I like that Percy's the one who solves that, because it's him learning to embrace his own self and his Greek history of it all. And I like that it's up to him to save his friends.
Yeah. But he does that with every scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is the main character.
Yeah. I agree. And it makes him a bit of a Mary Sue. And I hate to use that word. And I know what this is going to sound like. And I'm really sorry that I have to say all this stuff about a book that you really love. Because I know it's going to really hurt your feelings. No. And I don't mean to. But I really like in Harry Potter that those 3 characters are stereotypical. That Harry's the brave one. He doesn't get great grades. And he's not good at everything that he does. He can't control his temper. And he always gets in trouble for it. Ron is the silly comic relief. And he and Harry are best friends. And Hermione is a smart one that's good at all the smart things. And there's moments for each of those characters to be great at something that they skills. Do. Even in the first book, like at the end when they're finding the Sorcerer's Stone, Ron is great at chess. And so he solves the chess puzzle. And then Hermione's good at the potions thing because she can solve the riddles. And then Harry does the Quidditch one. And of course he's the main character. He solves almost all the problems, like 90%.
But why have a trio if you're not going to use the strengths of each individual person in the trio?
It makes them more interesting to me as a whole. And it makes the main character more interesting too by giving them weaknesses and showing us that they need the help of other people in order to succeed. Like, there is a moment at the beginning of the book when Annabeth, to her credit, comes up with a plan to use Percy as bait in order to win Capture the Flag. And that's great to establish us that she's a tactician, she's a strategist, and she's also willing to put her own teammates in harm's way in order to win. I like that about her.
I do too.
But I would like for it to come back again when they're on their travel arc.
Yes. Well, even like, again, the TV series that they just made, Rick Riordan was a part of that creative process, and he changed that too. Because I think that's a valid criticism, and as you read the books, he implements those strengths a lot more and a lot more efficiently. And like, even in this new series that they've done about book 2, they've made it so Annabeth figures out the Lotus Hotel from the get-go. Because
that's another
she
one.
would know.
She would
know. And the musical does that too. They don't even go into the Lotus Hotel because Annabeth is like, you really think we're going to go and sleep in a lotus bed?
It's obviously a trap.
Yeah. So I think that's a completely valid criticism.
Yeah.
And it's fun if you can have, maybe the crusty guy is also a vegan, and so Grover's like, hey, let me talk to you about animals, or do you know what I mean? Or he
tempts Grover into like, do you want some tin cans to eat? I throw them all away, or like, I got these old mattresses you can eat. Grover's like, something. Sounds delicious. Yeah. And then he and Percy get trapped in the mattresses, and then Annabeth has to be the one who solves the puzzle. Yeah. That was also something else I noticed in the Lotus Hotel, is not only is it a little bit of a letdown that Annabeth isn't the one that solves that problem, because she's supposed to be, you know, Athena's daughter. And Athena's like brilliant, the god of wisdom. But the way that Percy solves that puzzle is a little silly, because he's just like, I just have to remember my mom, and then I have to remember why I'm out here. Oh, I'm looking for the bolt, and I snapped out of it.
And then he tries to snap Annabeth out of it, and she's like, no, you're wrong.
And then he's just like, wake up.
What?
I'm fine with that. It's whatever. It's just, there's a lot of plot in this book. It's relying really heavily on fun scenes from Greek mythology.
Annabeth does solve the Cerberus problem.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, so that's one.
Yeah, that is one for her. Yes, of course.
And Grover is able to communicate with all the animals, so that's one too. But it would be fun if you can push those even further, like you were talking about.
Yeah, like it'd be fun if Grover was the one who figured out the Cerberus thing, because Cerberus is a giant dog. If we learn that Grover can talk to animals and he finds some way to negotiate with Cerberus, like finds out what Cerberus wants is to play, and then Annabeth is like, oh, I've got an idea. Here's a red ball. Instead, going into that scene with Cerberus, and we're kind of jumping around a bit. At the very end of the book, they enter the underworld. And the underworld is guarded by Cerberus, the three-headed dog, which is also, there's a giant dog in Harry Potter book 1. There's a lot of similarities.
To be fair, I feel like, how can you not have Cerberus in Hades?
I know.
That is Harry Potter taking from Greek, not Greek taking from Harry Potter.
No, I know. That's fair enough. there was some other this similarity. Oh, at the end of Harry Potter, like Harry, he gets the Sorcerer's Stone by like wishing that it's in his pocket, and then at the end of Percy Jackson, like the Thunderbolt from Zeus ends up in Percy's backpack.
Oh.
While they travel into the
Yeah,
underworld.
but
I know.
that's
It's not something to complain about. I'm just saying.
That's not how it works.
As I was reading the book, I was like, this happens in the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. It's whatever. It's already relatively derivative in that there's 3 main characters, 2 boys and a girl. One's smart, one's a comic relief, and one is the chosen one. I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to keep getting into it. What was I saying?
Cerberus. I don't even know.
Yeah. Going into that scene at the end of the book, they're like, how are we going to get into Underworld? That's Hades' domain. It's like impossible to break in. And Percy's like, I have a plan. I know what to do.
They all have a plan. They all planned it.
But it's Percy's plan to play with Cerberus. Yes.
He had the stick and the stick didn't work. And
That's what I'm
Annabeth
saying.
had a 2-toy.
Yes. But Percy was the one who came with the plan first.
Okay.
Like, it should be the strategist. It should be Hermione. Annabeth.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, push those character stereotypes a little bit further.
Yeah. But
instead of...
here's the other thing. You're already frustrated that it's so similar to Harry Potter. Would you have been more frustrated if they had followed those stereotypes like Harry Potter had?
No, because you're following those stereotypes, but you're doing a worse job of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So instead of reviewing Dracula, we've reviewed Dracula, Harry Potter, and Percy Jackson.
Yeah,
today.
you get whatever you want from this episode. Also,
It's Halloween.
Yeah.
It's a spook.
Yeah.
3 in 1.
We're also going to review Veep because I've been watching that lately.
What?
Why not?
Veep?
You not heard of this?
No.
I don't know if you would like it. It's just a comedy about politics. It doesn't matter. We're not talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if this book... I don't care that it's really similar to Harry Potter. I don't.
Are you
it's
sure?
different enough.
Are you sure?
Yes. I don't think that's a bad thing. I watch and read plenty of things that are very similar to what I love. Like, with every epic fantasy that I read, I'm like, how similar is this to The Way of Kings? So that I know how much I can love it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so many epic fantasies I've read are like, this is just like The Way of Kings. And we do that with everything. Like, Fourth Wing, Twilight... ACOTAR, Bonesmith, they have their similarities. And that's how marketing works.
Yep.
Like, people want something that feels new hat, but it's old hat. It's like just different enough.
Yep.
That's why I'm surprised that Percy Jackson didn't land with me as a kid. Because it is just different enough.
Yeah.
And I know this sounds like I'm shitting all over it, but when I'm reading a book and I'm doing it for this podcast and doing this story analysis stuff, I look for the things that I don't like first because they stand out the most.
Yeah, it's easier to remember those.
Yes. So to Percy Jackson's credit, I think the world building is spectacular. I think it came out at the exact right time.
Yeah. It's fun to see. You're like, ooh, how is Rick Riordan going to make Athena modern? How is he going to make Krakens modern?
Or Ares, the god of war.
Yeah, those are super fun.
Yeah, bring Medusa to life in a modern setting. It's really well done. And that's where I think his greatest skill as a storyteller comes from, is by like being really faithful to those myths. I mean, as far as I know. I'm not a historian.
Me either.
Yeah, but it felt like a kid's modern day retelling of the Odyssey, which is a blast.
Yeah, it's very fun.
So that idea in and of itself is so brilliant. And he does that very well.
Yeah.
Like, when I said that it's just, I don't think I said this, but the plot moves at like breakneck speed because he's trying to fit in like basically the entire plot of the Odyssey into a middle grade book in a week.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's just get through these scenes. So even though the Lotus Hotel scene is really lame, it's almost there as like fan service to people who love Greek myths.
Well, and it's like, I'm taking a set design class and we were talking about how if you're doing Romeo and Juliet, you need a balcony.
Yeah.
You can't do Romeo and Juliet and not give, oh, Romeo, Romeo, where art thou with that balcony thing. But it's the same kind of thing. If you're doing those kind of retellings, there are certain things that you have to hit. Otherwise, your audience will be like,
boring. Yeah, you can't do a Greek retelling like this without visiting Mount Olympus.
Yep.
Or the underworld.
Yeah.
Or seeing Cerberus or Medusa. Like, you need all the hits.
Yep.
And the brilliant thing about this IP is that it's royalty free. So anyone can do a Greek retelling. And there's so many stories to mine from. Like, we didn't meet a Cyclops. I don't think we met a Cyclops.
Not yet.
But there's so many mythological creatures, so many weird stories, so many gods, where it's like, you could just mine this thing forever.
He has.
And he has.
Yeah.
So credit to him.
Yeah.
Kudos, you did it.
Yeah.
You were the first one to do it, and now everyone is trying to copy him.
Yep.
For like the past 20 years, people have been trying to do Greek retellings, but it's like the same story, but just a different coat of paint. Like, let's do a Greek retelling, but with Twilight. Yeah. So instead of falling in love with the vampire, you fall in love with Medusa. I don't know. Yeah. What would you do? It doesn't matter. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you love this sort of thing, then I understand completely. And he's done a good job with it. Yeah. Clearly. I mean, there's a musical of it. There's movies, TV shows. Maybe there's a video games.
There's like 4 different arcs.
Yeah. But if I were rewriting this story, I would do quite a few things differently with the characters. Yeah. The plot is fine. The plot is fun. When it's good, it's really fun. Like, there's one scene in particular when the 3 characters are on, like, a Greyhound bus. The crazy thing is, like, I'm not going to look at the premise of, like, it's insane that the fate of the world is in the hands of a 12-year-old boy. Like, that's what Avatar: The Last Airbender does.
That's almost word for word a lyric from the musical, by the way.
Just so really?
You know. Yes. Who put the fate of the worlds in the hands of 3 unprepared, scared half-bloods? It's crazy. Yeah. Anyway.
That's just a trope. It's not even a trope. It's just, you're going to write a fantasy story about a 12-year-old kid.
So it is what it is.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with that. It's explained well enough. Yeah. When they start out on this quest to retrieve Zeus's bolt. His bolt
Master
of thundering.
Bolt.
Yeah, the Master Bolt, which is a cool prop. I don't know if that's from Greek myth, but it's cool that, like, Zeus, he has his one thunderbolt. Yep. That's his Master Bolt. Yeah. Anyway, it's a cool weapon. They go on this Greyhound bus to travel away, and they're attacked by these Furies, which are the servants of Hades. Yeah. These, like, bird women. Yeah. Really cool creatures. And that whole scene when Percy, he takes Annabeth's cap of invisibility. That was another similarity. In Harry Potter, he has the invisibility cloak, but it's like, can't you think of a different magical prop for these 3 kids to use?
It works, though. It works. It is so good in telling Annabeth's own insecurities.
About what?
That's the only gift she's gotten from her mom.
Sure.
And she has begged for her mom for a quest her whole entire life, and she has never seen and never gets it. So she's invisible
to her?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's a fan.
Fine.
Yeah. Anyway, it is the same. You're correct.
Yeah.
She could have given her a calculator.
A magical calculator. It's just an iPhone. Yeah. Just like, this is incredible, fantastic magical technology.
I can play Plants vs. Zombies.
Yeah. Look at this game. My mom designed it. Anyway, that scene is great. Like, the way that Percy solves that problem is they give him the cap of invisibility, and he walks past the Furies. They don't see him. And the Furies are just about to attack his friends, and he's like, no, I'm not a coward. So he takes off the cap, and he, like, yanks the steering wheel of the bus and throws everything into disarray. It's a lot of fun. So when the plot needs to be more intricate, then he can do that. Yeah. And he can write fun scenes where the characters take advantage of their environment. The decisions they make are based on character motivations, and they show them being heroic. I have nothing but good things to say about this book, but that's not true. Yeah. I have mostly all good things to say about this book. But I would love to see more diversity between the main characters. In terms of, like, their character dynamics. Yeah. Like, vary that up a little bit. That's what I would like to see. And let some of those secondary characters do their own thing. Shine. Let them shine. Share the spotlight a bit, Percy. That's what I would say. I still like him. I still think his character motivation is great. Like, he gets sent on this quest to retrieve Zeus's Master Bolt because Zeus thinks Poseidon stole it, and he sent his son to do that. Yep. So he's being sent out to prove his father's name innocent, even though he's never met his dad. And the only time that he's ever reached out to him is when he needs something. All that stuff is great, and Percy resents his father for it. Yeah. And even when he accepts the quest, he has no other choice. Otherwise, Zeus is going to, like, roast him. Yeah. And this is an opportunity to return to the underworld to try and find his mom and bring back to life.
That's his
true
driver.
motivation. All that stuff is great. My biggest issue is with the character motivation, character dynamics stuff. Yeah. Character motivation's great.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
And I probably shouldn't have started out this podcast by saying, I don't like this book at all, because I really do.
Yay! Okay, good.
I just wanted to delve into the stuff that I didn't like and to think of, like, how would I like it better?
Yeah.
You know? And that's what I would like better.
I think it would make it better, too.
Yeah. Here's another question that I have.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a lot of other Portal fantasies like this, where there's a male chosen one main character. Avatar: The Last Airbender does this, actually. It's very similar to Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, where it's like the main character's a funny 12-year-old boy.
There's comic relief and the smart girl.
Who's Zuko, and then there's the smart girl. Sokka, sorry. And then, Sokka's the smart girl. Like,
Sokka's the comic relief, Katara's the smart girl.
I don't care.
Okay,
we're not reviewing
I'm sorry.
that. No, I do care. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just bad with names, okay? There have been a lot of names in my head lately, and they all get jumbled up.
Yep.
There's a lot of that middle grade trope, right? Where it's those three same characters.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know where else it shows up and how do other shows make it different and more unique. And how many of those stories have a female lead? Can you think of any?
Alice in Wonderland.
Is that a modern? Well, is that... Who's in Alice in Wonderland? Who's in Alice in Wonderland?
Alice. Alice.
Yeah.
The main character, and it's Portal Fantasy.
Oh, but then who are her two secondary characters?
Oh, I see.
You know?
Probably... Oh, no one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just her. I guess you could do Mad Hatter and Cheshire. Cheshire is the smart one. Mad Hatter is the comic relief.
Okay. I'm really not familiar with that story.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it is, but I haven't read the book or anything.
Yeah, there aren't nearly as many.
Yeah, I wonder why not. Like, it'd be fun to have a Portal Fantasy with a 12-year-old girl who's the lead. Maybe Fablehaven does that. I'm not sure. I think that's a brother and a sister.
I think it's a brother and sister. I think it's more of a duo.
Yeah. Well, that might be fun to look into.
Yeah, it would.
I
feel bad. I can't think of more.
I can't either. The three that I can think of are like Avatar: The Last Airbender's not even a book.
I think Goose Girl could potentially fall into that.
But it's not a Portal Fantasy.
Oh.
It's a secondary world.
Oh, okay.
Portal Fantasy is like...
I always get Portal Fantasy mixed up.
Think of it as
but it is... Alice in Wonderland is a Portal Fantasy.
Yeah.
She literally goes through a portal.
I think that might be like the original Portal Fantasy.
Yeah. Okay.
Or, you fall into a magical world.
Okay.
Goose Girl is...
Oh, never mind.
So a secondary world means that the world that the characters live in is not
made
Earth.
up.
It's made up.
Okay. I always get Portal Fantasy mixed up.
That's okay.
Yeah, there's not a lot. Shark
let us know.
Girl.
Are there?
Just kidding.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, but it's not.
That story's bullshit.
Why are you hating on my favorite things?
Hey, I like that.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Dream.
Close your eyes, go to sleep. Time for bed, you little bleep. Dream.
Is that the actual lyrics?
Yes.
You little bleep?
Yes.
They self-censor in the song.
Taylor Lautner, baby.
Everything kids like sucks.
And that's okay.
No, it's not.
That's okay.
They should be
entertaining. To be cringe is to be free.
True. Shark Boy and Lava Girl should appeal to my sensibilities as a 29-year-old man. Should we wrap this bad boy up?
I think so.
Well, thanks for watching this clusterfuck. We've reviewed Dracula, Harry Potter Book 1, Percy Jackson, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Veep.
And Veep. So, let us know which of those
Halloween.
things you enjoyed.
Yes, please do.
Is this one of your favorite books?
Yes!
Who gives a fuck?
Is this one of your favorite books?
No.
Would you recommend it?
I would, absolutely.
Yay, okay.
I think it's a really good book.
Good.
Yeah, I wish I were a bigger fan of it, really. Because I love the world.
Yeah.
Like, I want more fun, mythological retellings.
Mm-hmm.
And I want different myths than Greek. Come on.
Yes, well...
Let's get a female lead Portal Fantasy with, like, weird myths.
I will say, all of Arc 1 is Percy Jackson is the main character. Arc 2, he introduces multiple POVs. So we do get more female leads. And we also get Roman myths, too.
Sweet.
So it does grow, but, you gotta get through 5 books before you get there.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind reading them.
They're fun. I love them.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for watching.
Please let us know if you liked Dracula and for what reasons.
Yeah. And how are you celebrating Halloween?
Yeah.
And what are you dressing up as?
Yeah.
And where do you see yourself in 5 years? Thank you all for watching.
Bye-bye.